Okay, we'd like to call to order the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission, August 12th, 2024 meeting. Ms. Bergami, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Present.
Ms. Strain,
Here.
Mr. Khan,
Here.
Ms. Belofsky,
Here.
Ms. Gold,
Present.
Chairman Darpino.
Here. And Ms. Gomes is excused tonight. Looking to get a review of two sets of minutes at this meeting. The first one is the July 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. Could I please have a motion?
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Khan and second by Ms. Belofsky. Are there any comments or corrections?
Yeah, on line 513.
Okay.
I think more accurately where it says Ms. Gold said, maybe opined would be more appropriate. Because I'm clearly not a legal expert here.
Okay. So on line 513, how would you like to word that?
Opined works.
Opined? Okay.
Express my
Yes.
opinion. Yeah.
Okay. I had one on line 528, which was between the words discussed and the, adding the word with. So the sentence read, Mr. Khan and Ms. Strang discussed with the rest of the board about stepping down. Any others? Okay.
None for me. I just wanted to, again, on the record, thank Laura and the intern
It was the intern.
who put together the minutes for reviewing the tapes and capturing the thought accurately. Thank you.
And I will take the red out for the final minutes. That was
Okay.
just so you could see the change.
Thank you very much for that.
Appreciate it.
Helpful, thank you.
We get a motion to amend the two items to the July 8th, 2024 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Khan and second by Ms. Gold. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And final vote on the July 8th amended 2024 meeting minutes. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to the July 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes. Could I get a motion?
Motion.
A motion by Mr. Khan
Second.
and second by Ms. Strang. Any comments or corrections? I had none.
I have one,
Okay.
line 96. I believe I volunteered to be the co-project lead. Nobody took me up on that, but
So change project lead to co-project lead.
yes, please.
That is
Very
correct.
minor detail.
We get a motion to amend line 96.
Motion made.
Motion by Ms. Belowski. Second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gold. All in favor of the amended line 96, state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. And then formal vote on the July 22nd, 2024 amended meeting minutes. All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None. And the minutes are approved. We have no public hearings tonight, so we will move on to privilege of the floor. Privilege of the floor is open. If you have any matters or concerns regarding the Town of Niskayuna planning, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name's Laura Scordino. I live at 1240 Milton Keynes Drive, next door to the short-term rental at 1230 Milton Keynes Drive. So I wanted to, again, thank you guys for taking on making a code for short-term rentals. I think it's a necessary step for the community. I still think that the best thing for Niskayuna community as a whole is to not have short-term rentals at all. So, I mean, I know that it sounds like that's hard to limit based on the zones. I've recently heard that in Florida, they split it up based on the length of time. And so maybe in some areas it's a week, in some areas it's 2 weeks, you know, based on how residential or not it is. I think that's something that maybe we haven't considered. Maybe that's an option to really take it out of the residential areas. with that said, as the code is written, where, if we're saying that we can't totally restrict it in residential zones, I think that there's a lot of good parts to it, and I appreciate the work that you guys have put in that. I think that there's still two main suggestions that I would offer. One is I think that 8 people is still too many. When we look at, I was speaking with Laura about this, and she said that we wanted to be inclusive of various family sizes. And I was just kind of looking into the average family size. And it's something like the average is 1.9 kids, or 50% or more of families have less than 4 people. And 95% of families have less than 6 people. So I think 8 people is it doesn't really need to be that big. I think that the majority of the community and even a number of people on this board really would rather not see it at all. So I don't think that we need to be overly encompassing with 8 people. And Milton Keynes, how it is now, we definitely need a code, because there's definitely been a number of times when there's 15 or 20 cars, there's 16 people allowed there with no limit on the guests. So I think any code is going to be better than that. But I would hate to see all this effort go into it and still not have it really address what fully needs to be addressed. And I think that when you get to be larger than a small number, like even 8 people, that's bringing together a number of different people who are there with a different mentality than somebody who lives in the neighborhood. They're there, they're on vacation, they're not working the next day, they are happy to stay up late, happy to be loud and not worry about their neighbors. And it's very disruptive. That brings me to the second point, which is that, I think it's great that we've said, or the current code is saying, no guests. I think that's important. I also think it's good that there's, a 1 strike limit where it's this is the plan, and if you're not abiding by this, then your permit goes. But I think that the what is a violation can be spelled out a little bit more, because there are times where it's not a ridiculous violation, but it's still very disruptive. There can be 3 or 4 cars and that's it. But if people are having a pool party at 10:30 at night and it's a Tuesday and you have to wake up at 6:30 the next day, it's disruptive. You're woken up because, in general, it's not super loud, but then somebody jumps in or they do whatever and everybody yells and you hear the music and it's loud and it's disruptive. So I don't know how that's encompassed in the code, but that we don't want to continue. So those are the 2 main things that I wanted to say. I think the small as possible, and that's important. And then trying to really spell out what are violations so that can be appropriately enforced. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else present for privilege of the floor? Hey, Laura, do we have any correspondence, emails, or letters?
We don't have any emails, but we have a number of people online, and I don't think all of them are applicants. So
Okay.
I'll just call the names, and if they are interested in speaking, please unmute yourself and let us know. Joanne Darling.
She's an applicant.
She what?
She's an applicant.
Oh, she's an applicant. Okay. Daniel Castillo. Hello.
Yes. Not sure if it's our time to speak yet. I'm here with Alex Gioni and Jericho King regarding the Mohawk Commons application for the new.
Oh, yeah.
Wingstop.
Okay. You're an applicant too. Sorry. I just have a lot of names. I'm just going to go through them really quick.
No worries. Thank you.
Jeff Levy, I know, is an applicant. Jericho King.
Applicant.
He's an applicant too. Okay. Alex Giovanni,
Applicant.
applicant. And then there's somebody on here whose last name or whose phone number ending in *62. If you would like to speak and you're trying to.
He's with the Wingstop applicant too.
Oh,
We
he
all
is.
came
Okay.
to
All right. I just
support
wanted
and
to make sure.
represent.
We've got 9 people online. So, okay. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. So seeing as there are no other people ready for privilege of the floor, we will close privilege of the floor. We have no unfinished business, so we will move into new business. First up is Resolution 2024-24, a resolution for site plan approval of a tenant change to Community Bank at 420 Balltown Road. There's no project lead, so I will read the resolution. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan and zoning board of appeals approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan and tenant change with the following conditions. 1, any and all proposed signage for the property shall be reviewed and approved by the planning board at a future date. 2, a significant surplus of parking lot area, approximately 26 parking spaces, surrounds the site. The applicant shall continue to work with the landlord and planning office to try to convert additional parking spaces into green space with landscaping or sitting tables, or significantly add to and refresh existing landscaping. 3, final landscaping shall be reviewed and approved by the Nisk Unitary Council. May I get a motion? So moved by Ms. Strang,
Second.
second by Ms. Woloski. Do we have anyone online for the applicant?
Yes, we do.
Yes, I can speak to the applicant.
Okay,
That would be me.
all right, great. Did you want to recap coming back to revisit the project since it was?
Well, I
taken
just
for a
want to
couple
say that, you know, and I've discussed this with Laura and Clark a little bit. We have restrictions on the property as to what we can and can't do, but we are committed to adding a bunch of landscaping along the front of the property where we can, and to some additional landscaping on that property. And I think it amounted to 6 beds across the front and some work around around that tenant space. We have taken the look at the tree and shrub list and are fine with that. And we are going to move forward on trying to find a way to add some nice trees as well as some fresh color to the front of our property. It wasn't ever our intention not to do anything. We want to work with the town to improve our property, but unfortunately we have, for lack of better words, some lease restrictions that made that effort very difficult and what could amount to hugely expensive. I did send Clark map today, a little while ago, of both the lighting plan that the community bank is planning to use, which meets all federal banking standards, and a couple maps of the property where we feel that we would be best suited to install new beds. And if that's agreeable with you know, the town, we would look to do that in, you know, not in August, but late September, early October, because we wouldn't want the heat to affect any new installation.
And there were more than one layout in the packet, and I'm not sure which one we're actually looking at.
No, I sent 2 today. One was a close-up of the bank parcel showing where we wanted to add stuff. And then there was a second one I sent today to Clark that showed across the front of the property where we best felt these area installations could be.
Okay, so the only thing that I'll put it up on the screen so you can see is I put the newest one that I could find in the folder in the packet,
Mhm.
and it did show parking spaces still being removed. But that's not the case. There's a different map that's just showing the enhanced landscaping.
There's a map showing the this plan and enhanced landscaping, a little different than this, as well as a site plan showing where we feel it would be best to install new landscaping around the perimeter of the property.
Okay, let's be very clear. Are you removing parking spaces, and if so, which ones?
We are not removing parking spaces due to lease restrictions in place by multiple other tenants.
Okay.
So it's a little difficult for the board to review new information that we haven't seen as part of our packet.
Yes.
Yeah, I was actually hoping that we would adjourn this till September, when I had a better design plan from my landscape architect people to show what we wanted to do across the center. Like I said today, I did send some maps of where we're thinking about improving across the front of the property. But at this time, you know, and I did send the lighting plan, but we were thinking this would be September when we'd be presenting this and then doing an installation shortly after that.
Our next meeting is August 26th, so if you had that information in a good state where you could submit it to the planning department, we could vote to table this resolution right now and move it to that meeting, or we could move it to the first meeting in September. If that
8/26 would be fine. The only thing I don't have are the plant specifics, but we're working on that as we speak. Clark, if you take a look at your email today, I did send some stuff later in the afternoon because I thought we were going to be in September until I saw your email. So
Oh, okay.
26 is fine with me.
Just for the record, I took the afternoon off, so I haven't seen that email yet either.
Okay. Okay. So, well, yeah, but we're fine with 8/26.
Okay, so we need a motion to table?
We
So
need a motion.
moved.
Okay, motion by Ms. Gold. I will second. All in favor for tabling application resolution 2024-24 until the August 26th meeting, please vote by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, good. Please submit everything to the planning department, and Clark will advise you on the deadline date prior to the week, or prior to our meeting on the 26th. And then you can formulate that package and we'll have a resolution then.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up is Resolution 2024-28, a resolution to call for a public hearing for zoning code changes regarding short-term rentals. Project lead is Ms. Gold, and I will read the resolution. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission does hereby call for a public hearing to be held on Monday, August 26, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. in the Niskayuna Town Hall, 1 Niskayuna Circle, Niskayuna, New York, to consider amendments to Chapter 20 or 220 entitled Zoning of the Code of the Town of Niskayuna.
I so move.
Moved by Ms. Gold. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Blosky.
Okay, I think we're at a stage where we can go forward with a public hearing. I do have a couple concerns. One is the issue of is there wording available that would be legal to limit it to 6 people unless they were family members? We would have to come up with a definition of family, I presume.
I think there's 2 issues. The first is, so family is tough to define, right? Like blended family.
It's, yes.
So that's the legal issue. The separate issue is the enforcement issue. So I feel like people will always be claiming that they did the exception. So I'd rather just have a number, whatever it is.
Okay. I thought you might say that, but I wanted to check it out. And the other thing is, I thought we had gone down to 2 strikes, but I didn't think that was reflected in the text.
It's actually really 1 strike.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we still have,
Although when I was talking to Laura on the phone about this, we did kind of reveal that the language for the complaints and violations could definitely be tightened up because there was a little confusion about what would be considered a violation.
yeah, because I still
Yeah.
see penalties for up to 3 violations.
That is in the
Cumulative, right?
back and is probably an inconsistency that I forgot to get to.
Okay. Could we get that cleared up before this gets published?
Yeah, so that would be what we should probably do is strike A, B, C, D, and just have a single violation.
Okay, so
And my apologies for not getting back to you on this
That's
sooner,
okay.
but it was a very busy weekend.
yeah, if I may, so I had the same question, but again, because all code will be subject to interpretation of people who are tremendously legally smarter than me, right? I viewed what was there in section J as being something that was more cumulative.
So actually, the attorney had comments on section J. She wanted me to change some things.
Yeah,
They came out very late and I wasn't able to,
okay.
but this was actually one of the places she flagged that she wanted to know where these violations came from. And they came directly out of the North Elba Code.
Okay, yeah, so I would recommend actually maybe, since we're getting close to, calling for a public hearing, that the parts of the code that we're convincing ourselves that are super strict and super regulatory, that there isn't a really smart, lawyer, law firm out there that can come and actually tell us here's how you get around it.
Yeah, we can like share it to, all kinds of people and have them look at it. I have the Schenectady County Planning Department is looking at it for me right now as well.
I think it's worth, and by the way, this is an additional topic, and I think I discussed it with at least one planning board member. Our edit capability after the public hearing still exists,
Oh,
right?
yes, absolutely. Because they may bring up things that we haven't thought of yet, and we absolutely are allowed to edit it after the public hearing.
Okay.
What we should not do really, though, is once the code is published from the public hearing, it shouldn't be any different between the publishing of the public hearing and the people commenting on it.
Right, agreed, right?
Yeah.
But after the public hearing, we can go into another edit.
Yes,
Cycle.
absolutely. Yes.
Yep,
And
okay.
my understanding is at some point, if we make major changes, we might have to hold another public
That
hearing.
can be true if they're substantial.
But minor changes are not a
It's
problem.
okay.
And if we really feel a need to make major changes, it's probably worth a judicial public hearing.
Yeah. And also the town board will have their own public hearing too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Laura, I do want to ask a question about the text in red.
Yeah, so that was, I should have probably put in red all of the things that Elena had commented on, but this was, I think, the most substantial. And she or Rob had said this at a different meeting that we can't actually base the code on a human. It has to be based on the land. And so where we had that the person that would spend the night at the property was going to be the owner and they would reside there for 184 days a year. She felt like that would not withstand litigation. And so we changed it to the property or the owner's designee.
So I find this one really troublesome. For example, what's to stop the owner from designating a renter as their designee?
Yeah, I also wasn't exactly sure how that is going to work. The only thing I can think of is that if they are not the person that's staying there, then they're going to have to pay someone to stay there, which I think is a further disincentive to have a short-term rental, hopefully.
But they could have a relative as their designee. I don't think they can have the renter or a member of that party.
Are you opining, Ms. Gold, or are you saying?
I'm trying to come up with what I'm basing it on, and it's not coming to me. But I've seen something similar before, and there was something legal behind it. But I'm not an attorney. I just like to read legal opinions.
How
Yes.
would you police that? How could you enforce that?
The owner's designee.
Yes.
They would have to put that in
I mean, I think that,
writing, wouldn't they?
yeah, so not being able to make it the owner, I think does complicate it, but it does have to be, a human being has to be in that house that is not paying for the short-term rental.
And who is going to police that that's actually happening?
So we are, yeah.
So there's gonna be someone who we can sit down and call.
Okay. As part of their application, right? That's on file.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the concern I raised, maybe we need to explicitly state that this person cannot be a renter.
Yeah, we could probably add that language.
Laura, one more
Yeah.
time, Laura, as to why we can't just make it the owner.
So the previous definition had it
Right.
as the owner as 184 days, but in the research that Elena did, she found very clear case law that said you cannot base the short-term rental code on a physical attribution of a human. Like it has to be land-based.
But didn't this one come from North Elba, actually?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if Brian Chesky is watching this, which he is, I'm sure he has a lot of interest in the town of Niskayuna, right? I would expect him to have some very adept lawyers looking at these drafts and understanding advice that they can give to renters or give to hosts rather, right? About this is how you make it work in this queue.
I mean, the Airbnb is in a very big lawsuit with New York City right now on a code that
Airbnb can probably
yeah.
afford 100 lawsuits.
Yeah, but I don't, I mean, I think that Rob's point at the last meeting about this being new law that still has to be sorted out is really true. I had a very long conversation with Schenectady County about this. They believe it's actually the only short-term rental code that's potentially being adopted in Schenectady County at this time, and didn't understand why we were even doing it until I had a long conversation with him about it. But he said the exact same thing with no predetermined watching of our meetings or anything. This is very new code, and like his recommendation was to adopt something that you could enforce, knowing that it may evolve.
But we're not the only community in
New York
the
State.
Capital District
Yeah,
looking
this
at
is
it. I
just
mean,
Schenectady
Saratoga's honing in on it.
Yeah.
And Saratoga County has had short-term rentals for decades.
Saratoga County is honing in on it with a different objective, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, they want some money out of it, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Ours is not about money. I think ours,
But-
we don't have even very big fees. Ours is about limiting,
It's about preserving the community, really.
preserving the community.
I think we can all agree on that last point.
Okay.
So, Jengis, do you want to add language though, then that says owner of the property or the owner's designee as indicated on the application?
I'd like a legal person who knows what they're
Yeah.
doing to add the language to, I think, right?
Agreed.
That knows at least the intent of the code relative to preserving the character and nature of our town and our community.
This is Chris. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm sure I know it's been discussed, but just to confirm, keep bringing up the hosted is tied to 184 days of living in the dwelling by the owner, correct?
That's what it used to say, but our Attorney
Okay.
Finnan thought that was not good language to have in our code.
Okay, so we're removing the language of the expectation is that this is a home that is a residence to someone for 184 days. So we're removing that, which means it might actually not be lived in for 184 days by the owner, correct?
Yeah, it's hosted, which our code is very clear that the owner or an owner's representative has to be at the home overnight during the entire term of each short-term rental of the property.
Each short-term rental,
So there
right.
still has to be someone on site that has a stake in the property that should be controlling any of the nuisance elements.
And we'll have to put up with whatever behavior goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like we are conceding, based on good advice, legal advice, that this is actually likely, it doesn't have to be a home that someone lives in half the year. It could be income producing. We don't have anything in this code that limits the amount of short-term rentals in a given year, correct?
Mhm.
And we also are, and I like, Genghis's idea, like, make it open that they can have a designated, host, but it can't be any party of the renter. And we're discussing whether that language would be acceptable or not, correct?
And I think that's a good point. And I want to amend what I just said. It's not that the person, the designee or the homeowner will have to put up with, it's that that person will have to deal with. If it's inappropriate, then presumably that person is going to try and change that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not
right.
being able to say an owner for 184 days is like not ideal.
It's not
But
ideal
that
at
is
all.
definitely,
I mean, we're losing the definition of what hosted meant to begin with. That foundation's been pulled out, but that statement is there now.
but we have so many things in this code that are enforceable. Like
Yeah.
the the, the licensing, the number of people being very limited.
I know, that's another topic I'm leaving for when we get to it, as a discussion item, right?
Yeah.
Right now, we're just talking about the text based on the motion that's been made.
But as long as it's really clear how it is either the owner or someone equivalent to the owner that's staying there and policing the property, that's the intent there. And if the language has to be amended, I mean, I saw Rob making notes. So we
Yeah.
can make sure that that language is clear, that it's, someone who has a stake in the property being maintained as a single family home.
That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. If there's a problem, they're going to be calling on the phone saying, hey, get over there. There's a problem. Code enforcement's coming over. It's just, there's so many loops. I just don't see how we can cover every single one of those holes.
You can't handle every single one of those with the actual homeowner being there with just their family. It happens.
I mean, I'm actually puzzled by the argument the attorney made, because fact one, it's not, that's called constitutional or legislatively defensible to attribute it to a human being. That's what the statement is, right? What we're doing is we're actually now taking one human being, the owner, and we're now talking about another human being, which is the owner's designee. So the human being attribution is still there. So that logic makes no sense to me.
And I apologize because I haven't had this discussion with Elena. And she's
Actually, it's
not
very
here, and they were
difficult to
her.
have these discussions
Well-
without the town attorney present.
Yeah.
I
Well,
kind
we
of
have Rob.
follow it. I'm not surprised
Sorry,
by
Rob.
it at all. I wish I could remember what I'm thinking of. And I'm not sure if it's New York or Florida, but there was an issue over somebody having a house sitter for a prolonged period of time. And the community objected, and the court said, no, that's valid. You can have a house sitter. There are people who go on sabbaticals and whatnot. There are professors who literally trade jobs for professional development and leave their home in the care of the person who's taking their job for the duration and that kind of thing. And you can't require the homeowner to live there X number of days a year. And I don't remember if it was New York or Florida, but I kind of think it was New York. I love reading legal opinions and decisions.
So it seems like we've got this one section that we've got to work on clarifying. Are we collectively at a point where we think we can move forward with the public hearing, or is there any concerns about not moving forward from anyone?
I think the public may add more to the conversation. Who knows? Maybe we'll have somebody who
Okay.
has more extensive background with this. I know Suey has,
Long
a
Island.
board member, has
Yeah.
experience with the Long Island Code. My niece was aware of it because she lived down on Long Island for a bunch of years.
The other thing we could check is I believe that that New York City has a hosted.
They do.
Yeah.
Oh, New
so we
York
could look
City's
at
is
one.
bizarre.
It's very bizarre.
That's my opinion.
The challenge with the owner's designee is that in a place like town of Elba, that's like a whole occupation, people who take care of other people's rental property. So I do understand the concern here that the spirit of this has been changed from making it sort of owner driven and overseen to creating the opportunity for, when you say enforcement, right? I'm the designee for 8 properties in Schenectady County, and I say I'm sleeping there, but right, the enforcement, it goes back to enforcement. So
So New York City's direct definition is the hosts must be physically present during the rental period and live in the same unit as their guests.
but I think it's also a 2-person limit, isn't it?
I looked everywhere for that and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Right, but it does refer to the host, similar to North Elba, right?
Yeah,
So
but
I'm not
maybe
sure-
rather than saying, maybe
I'm
we
not
just
sure
say
why
ho-
the town in Niskuna is determining the constitutionality of other people's codes.
Yeah, so maybe we just take the designee out and we just say host has to be present and you don't worry about adding the 184 days. Do you have a thought
In
on
fact,
that?
I wonder
think
why
you
the
have to
town of
allow the
Niskuna is
designee.
questioning the constitutionality of other people's codes.
I know.
Maybe it has something to do with where Airbnb originated.
That's,
I don't think so.
I don't think.
That's subjective. I guess what I'm saying, I don't know the difference. Laura, maybe you can explain. If we're saying we can't tie the code to a person, aren't we tying it to a designated owner? You know, like, what's the difference between that and talking about someone living there for 184 days?
I just know the 184 days was a problem.
I see. Okay.
And to me, the logic leads me to or the designee. So I'm okay with that. I don't know what everybody else thinks. I know what some people think, but not everybody.
I mean, I think we're kind of operating in a vacuum, right? So I feel like without that particular attorney present and not any kind of explanation to the board, I think we all feel maybe that we don't have the information we need to move forward on that.
Well, we have time between now and the next meeting where this could get, the definition could get cleaned up. We can get that distributed to us so we could take a look at it before it gets published if we go forward.
But it is actually published 2 days after this meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, it's a tight
So
window,
from-
but
Yeah.
So if we're not happy, this would be the point to say so.
Yeah, I don't love pushing it off, but we could amend the resolution to September or just table the resolution and then update the date and get clarification on the hosted.
that might be prudent at this point.
I'm actually okay calling for a public hearing.
Pardon?
I'm actually okay voting on the public hearing call.
I am too, as long as we know what that red paragraph reads.
It'll read as it reads right now.
And we have the opportunity to change it.
Mhm.
If it's a major change, we might have to do another public hearing. I don't think that's harmful.
Yeah, but I would just say that probably we can't change. We can make these lists of items that we know we want to change, but I don't think that we can change the code really too much from the resolution with the code attached to what's posted, to what people get to comment on August 20th.
Yeah, no, I'm not,
Mhm.
I think Leslie was referring to after the public
Yeah,
hearing.
after the public
And
hearing.
we can restart that whole public hearing
Yep,
process.
I think we
Yeah.
can have the conversation of the 6 people and fixing the languages of the fees and all of those things.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, okay, so you're saying to do the hearing, move the hearing forward to see what kind of response we get, and then and then circle back on everything after the fact.
The only sort of downside to that though is if there's a lot of confusion on this particular definition and we don't have it clear, then it, we may get the public is commenting on something that isn't clear yet.
Right. I think this is pretty, to the average person, that I think this is how a lot of these operate. So I'm not sure that it's unclear.
And one of my concerns is we've been hearing from the people who have been adversely impacted by one particular short-term rental. We have not heard from the people who are willing to rent their homes out this way. And I think that's kind of part of what we need to hear.
We definitely need to hear that, Leslie, yeah. But I don't want to step on anyone's feet or words here, but how are they supposed to register the designee for each stay?
I think that would be part of the form that they would fill out in registering the Airbnb, is that we'd have to put something there on who was going to be present and, how they were related to the property or something like that.
But Chris's
And
point
how
is
we
that
reach
could
them.
change every week, right? And that becomes very difficult to track. I hear what you're saying.
But if we require the designee to be listed at time of permit request, then is that a way for us to meet our objective, but also satisfy legal's concern? Or is it too restrictive right up front? If they change the designee, that we have a process. You have to reach out to town hall and change the designee. And if we're like, well, we have to do this every weekend. Yeah, you have to do it every weekend, or just pick one and we know who to call, all year round. But is that maybe the place where we address the concern of it being a renter or someone that's constantly, new?
Mm-hmm. That the designee has to stay the same on the form and be updated if it changes.
Or just, I didn't say that, just say the designee has to be stated with contact information at the time of permit.
And then, but then you tie that to the repercussions, I guess, right? On the other end, you have to be part of enforcement. So if it was, that person was not reachable or present at the time of the issue,
Mhm.
that would
That's a
contribute,
violation.
that would contribute to
Yeah.
violation.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm gathering is that we're, I think, going to vote to move forward with the resolution to call for public hearing. Any other final closeout comments, concerns? Okay. Ms. Bergami, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Ms. Strain?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Ms. Bilofsky?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Chairman Darpino?
Aye. Resolution passes. Okay. Next up is Resolution 2024-29, a resolution for site plan approval for a tenant change to the Easy Method Driving School at 2341 Knott Street East.
Good evening.
Hi.
Stephen Darling, representative of Easy Method. My grandfather started in 1961. Thank you so much for your civic service.
Okay. If you give me one moment, I will read the resolution and then we'll jump right into the discussion point. Okay. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan and zoning board of appeals approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan and tenant change with the following conditions. 1, any and all proposed signage for the property shall be reviewed and approved by the planning board at a future date. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Gold
Second?
and second by Ms. Strang.
Thank you. Stephen Darling, Easy Method Driving School. We're hoping to move here from downtown Schenectady.
Okay.
And we're hoping to move in as soon as possible. We do have our sign company, AJ Sign. I'm under the impression he applies for the permits for signage and such, and that is in the works.
Okay. The application looks pretty straightforward. Any interior renovations, anything, just complete turnkey?
Yeah.
All right. Signage package is separate. Obviously, parking is pretty ample on that side of the plaza. As far as how many people do you think there would be per day that would be stopping by? Just a quick recap.
Yeah, our assistant will be there
Mhm.
most days. Occasional classroom physically inside the building, but most of our classroom right now is all via Zoom.
Virtual.
So
So you do 5-hour courses?
we do the 5-hour pre-licensing class and we do insurance and point reduction courses. But the frequency of the insurance point reduction course might be 6 times a year physically on the property, at least as of now.
Mhm.
We have not used our physical classroom much since the world changed, and we just do it digitally.
And you provide vehicles for,
Yes.
training?
So we do the in-car driving. We may occasionally have vehicles parked there overnight, that belong to us, but not many, less than a handful.
and that particular shopping center is actually served by the bus line.
Yes.
So people who don't have another means of getting there can take the bus to get to their driving lesson.
That was one of we liked downtown as well. So the location is fantastic and we love the town of Niskuna. We always have. They've always been good to us here and we're looking to move in and be more of a part of the community.
So this is a move from downtown Schenectady, or it's not an additional
Correct. It is not
location?
additional. Correct. It
And
is-
remind me where you are in
we're,
Schenectady?
we're right across from Villa Italia, 245 Broadway.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is an interesting site to be at.
Yeah, we'll miss that. We'll miss being across from Villa Italia, but there's pros and cons to everything.
Mhm.
You've got good options.
I would have a
There are
hard time
great
staying out at Villa Italia.
So could you talk a little bit about the actual driving that happens? Like, do you have a fixed set of routes you'll take students on?
Well,
Will
we
it
do
be-
one-to-one coaching, but we pick up and drop off, so we don't really meet at our office much at all. Probably less than 1% of people I meet at the office now. It's traditionally to and from a location, often their home. We have various meeting points for people who live
Okay.
out too far, but very rarely are we leaving and coming back to our office.
Okay, so you won't expect any kind of uptick in
No.
student drivers on roads in Niskayuna?
No, it's just people who hire us in Niskayuna. Like I had someone today right
Okay.
down the street. You pick them up from home.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
So the fleet is owned by the school?
Yeah.
And about how many cars will that be on a
Well, so they probably won't be parked here regularly, but we have 4 vehicles.
4? Okay. And do you, I wonder, proximity to the high school, do you anticipate, to Jengus's point, doing more starting and stopping? I mean, there's plenty of parking where you're going to be, but more starting and stopping from your location because of its proximity to the high school?
No, because we just pick up from the schools.
Okay.
Like even now, we just pick up from the schools. Niskayuna, Scotia, all Shelmont, Mohonasen, CBA.
Okay.
I think it sounds like a very good use of the property.
Yeah, we're excited.
All right. Good. All right. There's no other comments. Ms. Bergami, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Ms. Strain?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Ms. Blavsky?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Chairman Darpino?
Aye. Resolution passes.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Niskayuna.
So do you need a project lead for that then?
No, it's all done.
It's done, right? Okay. That's what I thought.
That would be-
Okay.
Okay, that's it for the resolutions. Moving on to discussion items. First up is 1045 Palmer Avenue. And Mr. Khan is the project lead for this. And Ms. Griffin, how are you?
All right.
Good.
I'm here to seek the approval of having my residence home lot subdivided into 2 separate lots. Currently, the lot size is 80 by 200, and I would like to actually split that to 40 by 100, or 200 rather, so that I may build a 2-family home that will allow me to age in place.
And, Ms. Griffin and I, we did meet and, we did discuss and, made clear based on the narrative, which I think you were able to get a printed copy of, right?
Yes.
So the next step would be at the level of sketch plan, and it really is just a sketch, right? This
Correct.
board would have to decide whether we accept that as a sketch plan for subdivision or not. And if we were to do that, it'll immediately trigger area variances that are required, right, as we discussed.
Yes.
The area variances that'll get triggered are actually going to be for both of the new lots that will be created. Right?
Correct.
So
It
the
was
one
like
with the
you
existing
explained,
home.
yes.
Right. So I believe on that one, we're going to face at least 2 setback variances where the existing home is. I went out there and took some measurements, but I think Miss Griffin's team will get, the official drawing that's necessary, Laura.
Right. I mean,
the
I
plan-
have it's been surveyed. I just didn't submit that. And,
Yeah.
the plans can be made.
Right.
And I've also compared my site to the ones in the neighborhood. It's not going to change very much. It's an old neighborhood. Most of the lots are 40 by 100 or 2. So the flavor of the neighborhood really isn't going to change.
And I think that's something we can discuss among ourselves today, right? To the point Ms. Griffin made, they're in terms of the one factor, which is now the frontage, right? There are obviously many, many lots, and I don't know if we need to run an inventory of them. There's kind of obviousness if you drive in the neighborhood to see it, but maybe like we've done at Pierce and elsewhere, maybe Laura, it might be worthwhile if the board requires it, right? I believe 40-foot lots of that neighborhood, it's kind of typical in.
Yes.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I can run the numbers, but
But-
that is
yeah.
100% typical.
Right. Yeah. So it really is the level of effort that we'd like to take and whether or not that effort's necessary for the ZBA. And ultimately, as the planning board knows, that gets to the suitability question, right? Definitely what is being proposed here will not be consistent with the comprehensive plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think there's experience-based agreement on that, right? And then each board member makes a decision as to whether or not it's suitable. But again, it has to do with the nature of, that section of Old Niskuna, that section of Palmer. And then, as you know, like we've discussed, right? And if you were successful with the ZBA and sometime down the road, you actually want to build on the new lot that gets created, right? The one that's currently
Correct.
empty space, to practically, put a house in there of really any kind, single or two family, another set of variances are going to get required. And I can't make any comment on that, or no one can as to.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm basing the concept of the housing based on what's already in the area. It definitely won't be any different from that. And my goal is that it'll probably be smaller than what's already there.
Yeah.
But I do understand that with the zoning laws the way they are different from when the house was built in 1890.
Right.
So I know that's taken into effect. But as I said, I think because the area consistently has a certain size, and I'm not changing that size in terms of making this addition, it is my hope that I will be able to move forward.
Yeah, so seeing the site plan, I think would be helpful to look at what the setbacks are, having the code overlay on that. The other thing is positioning of the driveway would be really essential to see which side it's going to be justified to. Obviously, if you go up the street, some of the side, the side setbacks are right up against the driveways. They're pretty tight there. The other thing, just so the board knows, is that there will be a dual review with the city of Schenectady. And again, if you decide to put any type of detached garage or any type of accessory dwelling on that, it most likely will fall close to, or if not on the line, or in Schenectady. So that's just another layer of something. But Niskuna, I believe at the onset of the meeting you had, the result was that we were going to be the lead on this because of where we're from.
So yes, City of Schenectady said we should be the lead. Their code is less strict than ours. And so if our subdivision went through, they would still require a subdivision in order for the lot to extend all the way back. But they felt like there wasn't really any sense of you going to the City of Schenectady until you at least gone through a number of steps with the town of Niskuna. But they will require their own subdivision application.
Okay.
So I think the key question to the board is if, so the sketch plan is as depicted on page 63?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 63?
It is, yes.
Right. And I think the way it's drawn, it's as a sketch plan. I think it means it meets a bare minimum set of requirements. I think for us to say that the application that will get triggered with the zoning board of appeals will require that more detailed drawing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, I
This is
did.
concept, not real.
Yeah.
And, I know that a lot more information is needed before a
Yeah.
final choice can be made.
Yeah, I mean, I took some amateur measurements when I was out there, and I think the amateur measurements I took are consistent with what's depicted here, right? Maybe we've got 6 inches or something we could be off by, but I could have been off by with my amateur measurements too. So, but then the question again, right, when we have to make the recommendation to the ZBA, right?
It's as a former ZBA member, it's a significant amount of setbacks. I know you came last time and talked to us about your plan, and it, it makes sense what you're trying to accomplish. Was there any discussion about alternatives or other ways to meet the goal? It's going to be a lot of steps for you to get a lot of approval to move forward.
I don't, the only possibility is building onto the structure that's already there. But I don't know how that plan would work. My thought was always that it would be a separate structure, and which would allow me, if need be, or financially, if I wanted to sell the other house, I could sell the other house. It also allows for an income from that house to supplement whatever I needed. So that was why I had that thought in mind.
Do you have any water issues with the property itself or your basement in that area?
No, I still have old dirt basement, but I don't have the thing that some people in this community have where, water, they got French drains and things like that. It's just the dirt floor. And not had any issues.
And if you didn't have them last Friday, then you know.
There's nothing, unfortunately, there's, except for a clogged drain, I've never had any issues.
Okay. Yeah, because site disturbance on this would be pretty significant for not only your house, but the adjacent properties and the ones in the back as well. So that would have to be considered if there was a really high water table or a lot of standing water or something. That's something that may be requested to be looked at.
Right. The neighbor behind me, I can remember at one point they did used to have standing water because ducks were back there. But I haven't seen that in the last 5 years. So I'm making the assumption that they did something.
Have you ever seen standing water on your property all the way to the
No.
back? Because
No.
it actually, I guess we'll see a topo map at some point, but it does, visually, it does drop a bit. And yeah. as you get down to
Right.
the
I mean,
backyard.
it does go down, but
Yeah.
I've never had water in the back.
Okay. But look, back to Ms. Bilowski's point, right? This is to get to the subdivision you're envisioning, right? This is the beginning of a journey.
Correct.
There'll be a set of things triggered relative to the areas, the existing properties we mentioned, and the new lot that'll get created, being there. And then definitely when time comes to actually build, right, it will require, any reasonable size house will require a visit to the zoning board of appeals again. And that could be a different planning board, a different zoning board of appeals. And there is no indication whichever way and whether any of that could be, work favorably for you, for what you're looking to do.
I understand. My feeling is that if I don't make the request, the answer is no.
Right.
Because I haven't made a request. So I'm making the request so that I can move forward with the permission so that we can get to the point where I still believe it's feasible. I may find out that with all the restrictions that, it may cause it not to be, but that's the route that I'd like to take.
Okay.
The CAC did review this preliminarily at the last CAC meeting last week, and they did feel this one was quite different from Pierce Road in that it was a double lot and all of the surrounding homes have the same type of size lot that's being proposed. But their one concern was, because they've seen this a lot in downstate, that when there's changes in infill in the neighborhood, like if it was to be a very, very large house that was built on here, it can change the character of the neighborhood and then they start changing over. So they were wondering if, it's a mandatory review to the architectural review board if it gets to that stage or whatever. But their one concern was that because this is so late in development, how would a new house impact the character of the neighborhood?
Okay, my preference, why I'm in the house I'm in now, is because I like Victoria. I like old stuff. So my goal and the as you'll call it, my vision board has always been a house that was very similar to what's in the area. I can understand having something, I'm not doing a Frank Lloyd Wright, in the middle of a area such as the one on Palmer Avenue. My goal is to be as inclusive or non-inclusive or non-whatever as the neighborhood. You may see a new house there, but it's not like, oh, there's some, it's not going to be painted pink. It's not going to be, it's just going to be a form of living, and it will blend into the neighborhood. That is my goal. And nothing against pink.
Okay.
Right, so we can, we can move for a resolution to accept the sketch plan.
Yeah. So your steps would be you'd have to do a sketch plan and you'd have to do a positive sketch plan in order for the project to move forward. With the positive sketch plan, she's allowed to submit the minor subdivision application.
Right.
That'll trigger the denial and then the recommendation to the zoning board of appeals.
But before when the plan, we do need to see a better drawing than what we're looking at, right?
For sketch plan,
Or,
it's very bare minimum. You can probably get away with it for sketch plan. You will 100% have to have like a survey drawing for minor
Okay.
subdivision application.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
if
No.
we're within practice on the sketch plan, as I stated earlier, with the bare minimum statement, I mean, I know I'm comfortable with it. So I could propose that we do call for a resolution for our next meeting, but folks, I'm just one voice, right? Others have to weigh in.
My opinion would be if you're going the route of getting the survey, is to get that drawing and see what the options are. And the best way to fit a house on this property that's going to harmonize with everything is it's going to have to be pretty sizable to fit. And what I mean is it's going to be similar to what's adjacent to it, your house, the other two family houses. So having porches, or if it's 2 stories, having a porch on the front, where I'm really concerned about where the driveway is going to be located. I think
Well,
that's
my opinion, my thought of where the driveway is going to be right next to the driveway that's there.
Mhm.
So there'll be 2 separate driveways, but the driveways will be next to each other so that the most clearing is by the other house. So they won't have a driveway running, right next to their window or any of that. The driveway will be next to my current driveway, and that area over there will be basically vacant like it is now. My plan is that I'll call it 1 story with a full basement. So that if the goal is to be able to be accessible, there's no need to have 2 floors. If I've looked at, if I do 2 floors, I may do like the neighbor did when they ended up putting in an elevator.
Mhm.
The cost of the elevator was the cost of putting in a full basement. So I was like, why not just put a full basement in? And I'm going to make the assumption that there are certain approvals that have to be done when you're making a resident home with a full basement so that someone could live in it. I honestly don't know everything, but I'm making that assumption that if it's going to be somewhere where someone's going to live, there's certain egress that have to be met. There's certain items that have to be done. And my feeling was the cost of doing that was comparable to putting an elevator in. Some of the houses on the street aren't 2-story. I mean, there's a 2-family that's a 2-story. Then there's one that's kind of like a cape. So it would still fit the flavor of the street. It might not look exactly like the house next door, but it would still be the flavor of the street.
Yeah, right across the street by Stewart's, there's a couple capes and then
Bungalows, right, in that area too.
Right. And 2 doors down down towards Stewart's, there are two families, and then there's a smaller then there are two capes, and then there's another, two family, and the same kind of thing. On the other side of the street, it's mostly capes and, maybe 2-story homes, but they're not 2 family homes.
Yeah. Laura, did you give Ms. Griffin the ZB application process? Are you aware of what that process is? For the zoning board of appeals?
I have the form. I believe we talked about it. I know there are certain questions that have to be answered and how they affect the area. I just wasn't sure of when I did that. So I thought that I had to get through having your review before that was submitted.
Your sketch plan.
Right.
You do.
Yeah, you do. But I mean, we could be talking needing to do that within the next couple of months, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Originally, I thought I'd be breaking ground by October, but I understand.
Yeah.
So yes, that's my process. I've
Okay.
already been.
Yeah. So it's
starting
worthwhile
work
to
on
review the
that.
questions, and you and I can discuss that,
Right.
right? But it's worthwhile to review the questions and
Right.
ensure that you can make a strong argument for what is being asked there.
Okay.
It's not, you don't need to wait to review them to know what it is that you're going to put in there as the answers.
Okay. I have been working on it.
Okay, so I'd
I mean,
like to
there's a
propose-
scale drawing on page 67, which
Yeah.
is an old, looks like
It's
a
an
copy
old-
from
yeah,
an
it's an
old.
old Schenectady-
It shows the
Yeah,
plat. So
right. And there was a garage there. The garage was taken down.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
it's the closest thing we have to a scale drawing. That's why I feel
you
comfortable.
can see the scale of it at least.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Khan, what I think Laura and I could do is we'll sit down and map out a complete list of steps that Ms. Griffin would have to go through, including the ZBA and the various planning board meetings. I think, several people have touched on that, but it will be really helpful to actually have them listed out because there are going to be quite a few steps to this process.
Thank you very much, Clark. I really appreciate that.
Thank
And whenever you're having that meeting, I appreciate you and Laura can cover it. But if you wanted to, just check with me if I have the availability to be there, I will.
Sure.
All right. But
We'll
thank you
rough
for
out the
taking the lead on
document.
doing that. And I think that's important.
I appreciate
Yep.
it.
Okay.
All right.
Are we complete? Thank you
Yes.
for your time.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Good evening.
So sorry, did we call for a resolution for sketch plan at the next meeting, or are we gonna wait until we get slightly more information?
No,
I think we're ready to
We're ready
call
to
for
call for the
resolution. Yeah,
resolution.
I think
Okay. For sketch plan
yeah,
approval.
the scale drawing is enough that
Yeah.
we can combine the two, at least
Yeah,
at this
I think
juncture.
so.
This is
Yep.
going to be lengthy. So I think taking the next step is going to keep moving forward and see where it goes.
It is interesting though,
Do you
this makes
find
it look 75 feet wide.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
I'll bounce
All right. So to summarize, we will call for a sketch plan resolution at the next meeting.
Got it.
Okay,
Thanks.
next discussion item, 424 Balltown Road, site plan application for a tenant change to a Wingstop restaurant. And let's see, we have representatives for the applicant online, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourselves and give us a quick overview of the project?
Hi, my name is Cherrico King. I'm an architect and I'm retained by the Wingstop franchisee to design the newly franchise restaurant location in this mall. We're submitting drawings for general construction, plumbing, electrical, for the interior renovation of the existing commercial space. I think it's attaches also a schematic, signage drawing, for proposed signage right next to 5 degree below.
Okay.
We have submitted a full set of construction documents. Again, this is fully, just for the interior renovation only. We're not changing any of the parking formation or anything. Yeah.
And
That's about it. Yeah, it's a simple project.
so this is in the former Party City location on the end of the Plaza building.
Correct.
Next to Five Below.
Right next to Five Below.
Next to
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the drawing packet was very thorough,
Mhm.
was very good. Couple things we always touch on. First one is you do have a front facade sign. The building is on a corner. Is there an intention of doing another sign on a corner of the building facing I guess it would be the roadway that goes towards the back of the buildings?
If there's an opportunity, I would take this up, with the landlord, and will probably be a future application for that. Yes.
Okay. A couple of the other things that we take a look at is parking. Obviously, this has got quite ample parking at this corner of the plaza. Your facility will have dine-in capabilities, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What about pickup or any type of delivery outside into the parking lot area? Is that anything that this business model promotes?
Yes, we do. That's also part of our, pickup delivery as well. Reggie, are you online now? Do you care to elaborate a little bit? I have Reggie Walker, also a part of the owner representative. He says something about he's off the mute. Can
Oh.
you?
So if he's the one that's on the phone, try pressing *6 on your phone, and it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get him to talk. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's got it. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yep. Now we
I'm
can
sorry,
hear you.
everyone.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, good.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Reggie Walker. I'm one of the partner owners for this franchise group. The last question, I can't answer two of the questions I was trying to answer. No, we're not going to put an additional sign on the side of the building. We opted to go with just the front sign. And as far as the last question of pickup and delivery, can you repeat that for me and I'll answer it?
If you could just explain what you thought that the process would be for any type of either takeout or if you're going to have a driver service come pick up and deliver food, where would you see that? Some of the other businesses in that plaza have designated placards and bollard signs that are out in the parking lot area.
Okay, we have another franchise location up in Syracuse, sorry, not Syracuse, in Albany, New York. And we managed to get by the landlord that has 3 designated parking spaces with signs that they, pick up for Wingstop, 20-minute parking. We will attempt to do the same thing with this location. When it gets into the restaurant, there will be designated areas to say this is pickup, this is dine in. 90% of our business model is all delivery pickup, where people order food ahead of time because we specialize in making the food. We order it, so it's a 20-minute wait process. We've noticed that folks don't want to sit in the restaurant waiting 20 minutes for their food. So what they do is they order it as they're on their way to the restaurant, so they can just walk in and pick it up.
So, and this is a comment to the planning board. So I noticed there's an proposed egress entry point onto the access, what's labeled as access road. So that section it's completely uncontrolled, right? There's no lane markings. In fact, I'm not even sure if there's a sidewalk against the building there.
I take it all the time, there's no sidewalk.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk, right? And I mean, and that area, that I can't find the right word to describe it, but that's a little bit of a free-for-all, right? Where people go around behind Target and, heading to Lowe's. And so I think the building does need to have a second egress, right, for fire safety emergency issues. But we just need to think about we're having people take a step out into, a very uncontrolled traffic area.
So maybe for the next meeting, we could have a map of the actual site plan that shows. Yeah.
My apology. You mentioned that we need a second egress from within our space.
You're showing one on the drawings.
Yeah, that's in there's an existing egress door with the steps on the side of the building. So, that's happened to be in the back of our house. Yeah, correct, right there. So that our employee would be using that as a, second means of egress.
Okay, so that's an employee door only.
Correct.
Do you know how it's being used right now, Laura? Do you know?
No, because I didn't even realize there was a space next to Five Below.
Okay.
Nope.
So I think it's just something we need to look into as to whether or not that's going to be employee only but the argument still holds, right? If we're having at least one person use
Delivery as well.
use that door, right?
Well, we will be using that door because we use I believe it's a 40-foot delivery truck. So to be mindful of guests in the normal parking area, we will be using that doors for deliveries and things of that nature. But our deliveries do arrive at the store between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning.
I mean, I guess it begs the question: how does Party City do their deliveries?
I mean, they're all getting them.
Yeah, because
Target
so
in the back.
I didn't realize this, but I believe Party City was the whole space.
Correct.
And this
Yeah.
is a demising wall.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is. I think all of Party City. Part of it went to
Five Below, and this
and
was
this is the other
left.
part.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Party City's delivery could have been in the back.
It could have
right?
been. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I believe Party City, when we walk the property, they have their egress doors are in the back of the building. So they do receive their deliveries way in the backs.
But
Correct.
it may be as simple, like have a site engineer look at it and see what the distances are. But it may be as simple as like just cross hatching a landing zone along the side of the building, to discourage people from driving too close, or so that they know that there's an area where the cars shouldn't be.
Yeah. So have you? So I'm going to ask hopefully that this has a factual answer. Have you walked the property, right?
Yes, sir.
So you should be familiar that if you spent more than an hour at the property, that section of, I don't even know what to call it. It's not
It's
a
an
road.
access.
And said
It's an
it's so
access road.
shady in this picture. I wonder
Yeah.
if we could get a better one.
That what you're labeling the access road there, right? Calling it a road is a little bit of an overstatement. It's a surface over which people drive in an uncontrolled way.
Correct.
Right. So the point that we're making is that if you're having an intent to use that side door, there's got to be some minimalist or, fully flushed out way to keep that area safe for pedestrians, delivery employees, or others going in and out of that door.
Okay, so now can I actually, it is an existing door. We don't necessarily need to keep it as an existing door. Will we be allowed to close that door up? Because like I said, we get deliveries at 3:00 in the morning, so they can always come through the front door. Some of our locations do.
I don't know that. That's a question you have to have for the building inspector. But this isn't like a heavy lift. It's something the planning board reviews regularly. And so what we're asking is that you look at car and site control outside the building. So we only got interior plans and we're looking at outside the building. May just be a conversation with the landlord. I believe he's on the call that there needs to be some safety striping along the side of the building, similar to like a fire lane or something.
I'm looking at the current existing photograph of the building on the side of the building. There's about maybe a 10 or 12 feet deep of curbside walkway. It's about 6 inches higher than the normal driving, area. So I don't know if that's something that what you're looking for. Currently, there are two. I don't know if we can put, the little man going there. Yeah, right there. Okay. Now you see that wall doesn't show any wall at all. But in reality, the last tenants, I think they have actually installed two doors along that wall. There's one in the middle is exactly where you see, what you see in our drawing. There's a second one belongs to 5 Degree Below, which I think eventually they're going to take over and use that as their access door as well. But otherwise, you see that walkway. It's about 6 inch.
There's a sidewalk. I didn't realize that.
Okay, so
there's
you
a sidewalk.
clarified it, right? So there is a sidewalk. We those of us who drive that road all the time are not really conscious of it, but it's there. So that alleviates, quite a bit of the concern I was raising. Thank you.
Okay.
Would that side door be an employee entrance?
Yes, because our customer, it's only occupying the first 40, 50 feet of the store area only, and they'll be cut off by the door into the kitchen. There are two, public bathroom in the front. So we have total of 4 tables, roughly about 16 customers. So they're only going to be using the first entrance door from the front. So the first side door you saw is going to be mostly for the employees only.
So that makes sense. So you talked about the Albany property having designated parking 20-minute pickup for customers. How do you handle DoorDash and Uber Eats pickups at your other location?
Reggie?
It's all the same 20-minute parking. It's the landlord gave us, I can't remember, it was a minimum of at least 3 and maybe 4 in this location. And if you stop right where you're looking at, you see where the gray Jeep is at. So there would be like those 4 spaces next to the handicap spot will be designated with signs that say pickup for Wingstop. So DoorDash comes in, like I said, normally DoorDash goes, I get there 2 minutes later, I get the food and I go.
Okay. So they'll be parking in spots and coming in as opposed to pulling up in front of the entrance to the establishment.
That's the way we did it with our landlord in the Albany location, and we would be asking the landlord there to hopefully help us and do the same thing. We would buy the signs and install them, the little pole that says Wingstop parking or whatever.
Okay, but this goes back to that we need an outside site plan though,
Yeah.
that shows where you're going to designate the reserved parking.
Well, and the employee parking as well, that back.
Yeah.
It's going to be employee
Yeah.
entrance.
So the interior plans look really good, understandable. We probably don't have any comments on the interior plan now that we sort of understand that there's a sidewalk, which I did not understand. But I do think we need an exterior plan, and especially if it's going to involve reserving a couple parking spots there. And then probably same comment as the community bank. What's the landscaping look like around there? And can you add any additional greenery too, probably?
Well, we are not proposing anything landscaping wise as far as we were not told to do so. We assume that's probably going to be the landlord's responsibilities. So currently the Mohawk shopping mall, I don't know if they have any kind of provision for improving the existing landscaping.
So something you need to work out for the next meeting then. We're going to need an outside site plan and some answers to those questions.
Okay. Fair enough.
Plus, if you want to have designated signage on any type of posts or bollards, we'd want to take a look at what that looks like as well.
Okay.
All right.
So I have one last comment, and I'll accept this is an irrelevant comment, but I just want to make it nonetheless. Most of the eating establishments in Mohawk Commons is actually on the Balltown Road side of the property. This will be the first, eating establishment that's deeper in. Like I said, I view it as an irrelevant comment. I just want to make it, no, just stop. I don't know if that's got any implications to it in terms of long-term usage, future usage, precedents is set, etc. I know anything can go anywhere, I think, in Mohawk Commons.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make that comment.
It is the farthest back, that's for sure.
Yep.
There was Taco Bell, which we addressed, and then there was Ruby Tuesday, correct? On the
Right,
other
but-
side, which is actually not far away.
Yeah,
from
they're not
that
far away.
location.
They were close. Yeah, but it just, like I said, it's just a statement of observation. So.
Hopefully Wingstop will be so delicious that it draws more people into the plaza.
Right. Well, I mean, on that note, that's where it's come from. The good news with it is actually it's down. It's very close to a main
Yeah.
roadway within the mall, right? No one's got to navigate. There's not much navigation of, parking corridors to get there.
How long has the store been in Albany? Is it very successful down there?
The store in Albany, we opened up about 4 months ago. It's very successful. As a franchise group, we own 12 stores in Brooklyn and Queens, and Cherico has designed all these stores for us. We have one up in Utica, New York, and we just opened up one, I want to say 3 weeks ago in Troy, New York.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we are looking for a project lead on that one. So if anyone's interested, let myself and Laura know. Okay. Next up is 2428 and 2429 Heartland Street, application for a lot line adjustment. And we have an applicant here tonight.
Well, good evening. I'm Stephen McIntosh, one of the owners, along with my wife, of 2428 Heartland Street. You might want to change the spelling on that, though, because it is Hartland.
H-A-R-T.
I thought I remembered that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, spell check and everything. It's like when you deal with someone out of town that you always have to tell them how to spell Niskayuna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do here is add a little bit of property to our property from the Hexels next door, who are in favor of this. And basically the idea is to make the property look better next to the tree line. When the property was originally established by CT Mail and Associates and Bizzalone Custom Builders, when they did that along with Lou Lecce back in 97, I think it started. First home was up, I believe, in 98. We moved there in 99. So the tree line runs almost next to that shed and then moves towards the part of the circle on the Hexel property. So it'd be away from that bold line. And it's just a really weird frontage when you go down there and look at it. You've got a drainage swale. The first two owners that had that property, we actually used to mow the lawn and maintain the tree line because they had no interest in doing that. It was pretty funny, because you got to actually leave your property and go around the swale to come over here. And years ago, the town actually used to mow in between the two properties there. And that occasionally happens now, but usually the homeowner over there does it. And it had to do with the way they set up the lot on the other side of the circle originally for a house, and they didn't end up building one there. There's really nothing there other than basically the sort of land you get in Niskayuna that's got trees on it. There's a fair amount of water that sometimes comes through there, but it all drains away. Basically, for us, it's more of an aesthetic improvement, and it makes sense visually when you look at the property. If you were to go there and drive around and look at where the grass maintenance line is for one property versus the other, it's not a big deal, but we had the land surveyed in 2017, I think it was, by Osfeld and Company. And essentially, we always knew that line was kind of where it was, but then it was like, gee, that line is really not in a great place. And then our neighbors actually had Osfeld did their property a year or two later. And so, we're well aware of that strip we're asking for 15 feet along that line to the back that runs up against the unknown owner. The Irani family still lives there on the other unknown owner side. That's the only thing that's there, other than their backyard and pretty good tree density in there.
Okay. Thank you for the summary. I guess looking at the lot lines that are currently there, it doesn't look like there's any intention to subdivide or just to.
Yeah, small change.
Oh, that's a good image. Yeah. So the area is basically where that swale starts.
Yeah, it's just past it. Past it this side, moving towards the home over there.
Okay.
And then you're almost exactly at the angle of where the marker is. If you were to come down from that tree line next to the back of the shed there and come down about another 8 or 9 feet on that side where the trees are, and then come right out, that's where the property line currently is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it looked great on a map, but when you actually look at it, it's really kind of weird.
That can happen.
Yeah.
And so other than the mowing, is there any other maintenance that swale requires, or any kind of clearing?
No,
or-
it's just mainly keeping the tree line in shape. We've had a couple of trees fall down in there that have damaged the house over the years. You know, basically for us, we have had a number of trees moved on that property or removed over the years because of their threat to the house. And so they're currently in good shape, but that would give us some opportunity there also with the additional 15 feet to maintain that.
And this would not necessitate any variances or anything like that.
Well, what we would need to determine that is a full survey. It's okay to get the comments from the board, but the lot line adjustment, the next step for you is to submit a full survey. And then we would double check the zoning.
We're all ready to go with that. So it's just a question of if we receive approval to move ahead with that phase of it, we'll go ahead and get the full survey done of the proposed change for both properties. I think that's what you require, correct?
Yeah, at this point, it's just a verbal okay, so you can kind of pull the board. But I mean, generally speaking, from a planning perspective, it doesn't seem like it has a lot of impact. So the only thing we would really have left to check is the bulk zoning requirements.
Yeah. So Laura, unknown owner,
Right.
I mean, what is that?
So that I think it's just kind of, although lot line adjustments don't really need a sketch plan, but that's just you won't see that on the submitted survey.
No, but I mean, so that rectangular strip of property that's running along one of the boundaries of where we're going to move this lot line, what's its status legally?
I don't know that because
Okay.
that would be found out, I think, with a true survey. It may be a town easement, especially if there's some drainage and stuff back there. It may be that it was never recorded. That's stuff that we can figure out.
Okay.
Probably does not impact the lot line.
Yeah, I mean, it
adjustment.
looks geometrically, it looks like it doesn't, right? We're not changing anything relative to that property, just, right? It'll still be adjacent to the two properties that are currently there. But it's just weird that, okay.
State something that got neglected, didn't get transferred, that legal description.
Okay.
Usually it's not shown this way. Usually they lump it with one side or the other case, but whatever they think. Luckily it doesn't affect.
Yeah, it doesn't affect anything, but it's just calling it out since we're looking at it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and if I can interject, basically all the neighbors are aware that's there. It's a common joke for all of us, essentially. I had wanted to remove trees back there. They were a threat to the house several years ago. I actually came to the town and asked if they could clarify for me if that was our property or not, or what was happening. I couldn't really tell from the original map. And it turned out that the trees ended up being after we had it, when Osfeld came, they said, we don't know what they're talking about. That 3 feet is over that way. So they said, you actually took the trees off the property that you actually own. So that map right now for that section is highly accurate, I would say.
Okay.
But CT Mail left it on there originally, so it must predate when the site plan was done for Heartland Street. It's amusing, but other than that.
Right. And there's utility
Not
easement
helpful.
that's on the property as well, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and that'll show up on the survey.
Yeah,
Right,
nothing
okay.
changes with that,
Right,
it seems.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the feedback that you're hearing it sounds like it's got some merit to it. So I would say we move forward with the next step.
Yeah, so your next step is to submit a survey to the town of Muscuna.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else?
It's just more mowing for you.
Pardon?
More mowing for you.
Oh, that's okay. Like I say, years ago, I used to mow it anyway, so whatever.
You do like to, Attorney Hess's, you will need like an attorney to do the deeds between the properties and stuff. So, I mean, it's not immediate step, but I would definitely start thinking about it and figuring out.
I've
the
got
legal-
somebody I can.
Okay,
use, so,
yeah, because it's not just legal descriptions. You
Okay.
got to write the full deeds that get recorded with the lot line adjustment.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Are we good?
Any other questions?
I'm just waiting for you to ask for a project lead.
Oh, we're looking for a project lead. Ms. Gold has volunteered, so
Oh,
she
thank
will
you.
be the project lead. If you just reach out to the planning department, they'll put you in contact. And a lot of times we like to set up a site visit We'll meet with the owners, take a look at the property, maybe take some pictures. They get the information back to the board so we can take a look at stuff into the next package.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Well, we'll move ahead with the survey then.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your patience tonight.
Laura, you can put me down as a project lead for Wingstop.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
I'll do it with you. That's okay.
Cool, yeah.
All right,
good.
good. Okay, perfect. That's it for discussion items. So moving on to reports. Lauren Clark, anything?
I don't have anything specific. I did the date for submitting the planning board alternate resumes did sunset, and I got 4. So I should
good.
hopefully have appointments by the end of September.
Okay.
Yeah. So
There was, Laura, you might show that one sign. There was a completely code compliant sign. It's an exact replica of the existing sign.
for Tresco Bank,
Yeah,
yeah.
we said we would just show it.
That'll take me a second. I have to log onto my work computer.
Oh, it was in the folder.
Okay, while Laura's searching for that, Clark, we have any other report items to go over?
No, that's all we had here.
Okay.
Any training opportunities?
They did announce the date for the October training at Hudson Valley.
Okay.
So although I didn't actually see the flyer, I should be able to find that and get it for you because they announced it at the last CRTC meeting.
I just wanted to say that I took my weekly Friday evening drive down Milton Keynes Friday. And they not only had about 12 to 15 cars, there was a trailer unloading something that looked like a canopy. If you looked at the house on the right-hand side of the house before the tree buffer, they had a huge tent erected, and there was a whole lot of noise. I actually stopped and spoke with some of the residents who are tremendously frustrated, but we know that they are already. But I'm just going to give you guys a report every time.
Yes, okay. I think it's,
I'd love to say that I went by and I took a picture, as I do every week, took a picture and there was 2 cars in the driveway. That would be great. I don't think we're going to see that, but I'll look for it. Who knows?
So the picture of the Tresco Bank sign, I think it's currently green,
Mhm.
and they're changing it to blue there.
Same dimensions, 84 inches by 12 inches. You had the old building permit up there for a second too, Laura, just to show what's currently there.
Yeah. Any questions on that? I think it'll look nice.
And TD Bank is well underway because I had to be in there and that's all ripped out on the inside of that branch.
Okay, commission business. Anyone on the board have anything?
so I don't want to belabor it because it can be a belaboring discussion, but I did write up, and it's in the package, a proposition with some reasons stated, and reflecting in today's meeting, right? Given the comments that you said Schenectady County made and others made about just the newness of short-term rental codes. So maybe we owe it to ourselves to actually stage this somehow. In other words, not have it blanket apply to the entire town, right? So I know it's not on the agenda and I don't
Yeah.
want to take the last
Your
minute.
amendments in
I'm sure
there.
it'll come back to the agenda and we can raise it, right? So, and so I would actually cite that as an additional reason that was in the back of my head, unarticulated in what I wrote up, right? Clearly what I intended by what I wrote up was, why don't we just start doing this in a place where the minimum property sizes are large enough that if we do run into situations like Milton Keys, and you had said, Laura, the Milton Keys property you're saying isn't 80,
It's over 80,000 square feet. Yes.
yeah, so maybe my thought actually won't help Milton Keynes, but it'll sure help a lot of other places in R1, R2, and R3, right? Again, remember, my arguments are straightforward. So you know what? I'm not going to take the time here doing it. I'll do it when it's an agenda item. I just wanted to use some words verbally to explain what I wrote up there. But an additional thing that came up for me, at least reflecting in today's meeting, I don't think we should blanket allow this in all of Niskayuna. I think we need to, in some way or shape or form, stage what it is that we're actually trying to do with this code. There should be some parts in Niskayuna where this isn't allowed. Hosted short-term rentals. Thank you.
Any other items? Okay, I get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, by Ms. Gold,
Second.
second by Ms. Belowski. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting was adjourned at 8:40 PM.
Not bad.
Thanks, Clark.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, Chris.
And again, Lauren Clark, if you can invite me to any meeting with me.
Yeah.